push?
I can't.
Yeah, you gotta push them.
Good grunts.
Big breath in and push down as hard as you can. Yeah, that's it. Get those shoulders. Okay, there you go. Chelsea, push, honey. Push. Reach down here. Reach down. Yeah. Look at this baby swimming all the way out.
Welcome to Transformation to Parenthood. I'm Dr. Lolly DeYoung. In this TV series, we'll explore the kaleidoscope of choices in pregnancy, birth, and early parenting. We'll look at where you birth, how you birth, and with whom you birth, and talk about infant feeding and healthy family living. Our aim is to support you in transforming into a parent who courageously uses their voice, respects the choices of others, and ultimately trust themselves.
When I was talking about the show, I thought to myself, this would be a really great resource for new parents and new mothers that are in the position that I'm in, that have questions, that don't know what to ask. And this was going to be a way for me to kind of find out what those questions were for myself.
My background is in human and organizational systems and human development. And just based on my own birth experiences, which were a number of years ago, I've come to the conclusion that people want to make their own choices, but they want to make informed choices. So what we're aiming to do with this TV series is to present information, to bring in subject matter experts, to talk to parents, and explore the kaleidoscope of choices that are available to new parents.
As far as the labor goes, what I remember the most was just how I was treated. And I think that's really important because it really still, even a year later, just that's what I remember the most, is how I was treated giving birth.
How you birth and the connection that you establish with your baby are very important. Just like where you birth and with whom you birth, there's many options available. In this episode, we'll look at some of those options. We'll talk about water birth, and we'll also talk about cesarean birth, which for some women can be a very challenging experience. We'll provide research in both of those areas, and then we'll talk about how to have your voice and really trust yourself so that you can be the leader within your own birth and through the transformation to parenthood.
How we treat a mother matters to the baby, to her family, to our culture, and that it's not good enough to have a healthy baby at the end of a birth. You need to have a healthy mother and a well family and an intact relationship and protected attachment in order to have a successful birth.
The transformation of parenthood and all of the individuals who may come in and out of our lives during that time of transformation, so our caregivers, our family members, support people, women in the community and professionals in the community. What we need to keep in mind is that it's about forming a connection.
You can shut the world out and be connected to the ancestors, be connected to all those women before you that have birthed successfully, because we come from a long line of successful birthing women, or else we wouldn't be here.
We are forming connection with our children, and anything that comes along that is not nurturing that connection is something that we need to think a little bit harder about. Midwives nurture the connection within a family unit. Natural birth, where possible, nurtures that connection. Being present during your pregnancy and your labor and your birth and in that postpartum period, and having people to support you nurtures the transformation and the connection in your family. It's about becoming a family.
A lot of women feel silenced, and I think a lot of that comes from early childhood. I think that we're raised to listen, and we're raised to really not complain and to just kind of do as we're told in either a really extreme way or just in a be good type of way. But as soon as we encourage women to listen, to what their body is saying or what they're feeling deep down into their true self, we call it. It gives them confidence that, you know, hey, I was right. I knew that I didn't want to do that, or I knew that that wasn't the right choice for me. If we can get them to just trust themselves, then I feel like they use their voice more.
It was inspiring and eye-opening for me to see that my pregnancy was not an illness, that I had the right as a woman to be involved in the choices that I made in my pregnancy, and to also feel confident in the choices that I made. The birth of my second son was the best night of my life, and women all the time will say, you had a baby that day, how was that fun? And you know, having a child is a hard work. It was the most profound work that I had ever done, and it changed me as a woman, it changed me as a parent, it changed how I believed in myself, and I feel that in all those ways it changed me so much for the better. It brought my abilities into perspective for me. It brought my confidence in myself into perspective, and that translated over into my postpartum experience. All of a sudden it was like, there's value to what I'm doing with this. It is important. It mattered how I brought my baby into the world, and it matters. This matters, and it's going to matter for years to come in his life.
There are different interventions and approaches to pain relief, both medical and natural. When it comes to interventions, it's important to make an informed decision. In this segment, we'll talk about water immersion as a natural pain strategy, and we'll talk about how you birth and the way that you feed your baby can impact gut microbiota.
One of the most important things I think we need to do right now is to remove the divide between breastfeeding and birth. We somehow have them in two silos. We address birth here and we address breastfeeding here. And what we forget is that breastfeeding and birth are completely intertwined. Breastfeeding is part of the second stage of birth. When babies are born in a physiologically normal birth, those babies come right out and up onto mom's tummy or onto mom's chest, and those babies are moving towards nursing, latching for the first time, often before the placenta is even delivered.
We conducted a project at Stony Plain Hospital at the request of the community, including the providers of maternity care. One of the cornerstones of that was water immersion as a strategy for pain relief. Women tended to want to labor in water. Of the 1,500 women who started labor at Stony Plain, over 700 actually gave birth in water. We found that the women appeared to be satisfied with their care in that they came back to have subsequent babies there. We found that there were fewer inductions. The midwives were the most comfortable provider group with respect to letting women stay in the water for the birth. They didn't stay in the hospital very long, so that would be predictive of a lower cost. We found they didn't use medication very often. If you consider that an epidural rate of less than 5%, with one in some hospitals that are like 80%. And this was a maternal choice. It was one that the women felt made them stronger.
The water birth program in Rimbey started as an idea that was presented to me by one of my patients. The first water birth that happened here is really very, very special to my heart. It involved a woman who actually is a family friend, and it was her second baby, and she was kind of the one that started this whole impetus down this road. It was kind of scary, but also really exciting. The midwife had come from Red Deer to be part of it because I was still needing to have some supervised water births in order to be certified to do it on my own. And it was an extraordinary experience. It really was. I mean, the room was sort of softly lit, and it was so tranquil. And I remember, you know, my patient just being really calm and really relaxed, and all of a sudden there was just this lovely little baby in this pool of water, and it was amazing.
The transformation to parenthood is an important time for parents to become aware of birth interventions that may affect the development of good bacteria in their infants' intestine, and then therefore could potentially affect their child's health down the road. The infant is born with very few microbes, and the first microbes are called colonizers. And what they do is they allow the foundation for other microbes, good bacteria I should say, to grow. The development of gut microbiota is very important to the development of the infant's immune system along the intestine. What happens is that the gut microbes, they're training the infant immune system. Like, okay, this is a good microbe, don't get too anxious, don't overreact, don't start any inflammatory processes, or this is pathogenic, so that therefore it's appropriate to react. So this kind of training is going on as this microbiota is developed, and so is the infant's gut immune system. We know that some of these changes to gut microbiota can increase the likelihood of getting allergies and asthma, diabetes, overweight down the road. So, awareness and then prevention. So cesarean section delivery, in the cases of an emergency cesarean section, obviously that is the choice.
A C-section, a cesarean birth, that's a major abdominal surgery. We know that those women need a lot of extra support to meet their breastfeeding goals. So whenever there's an intervention from something major like a C-section, or even something that we consider to be quite small or insignificant, an epidural or pain medication, that increases the risk of breastfeeding failure, and so we need to provide additional support.
Welcome back. In the last segment, you heard about cesarean birth. In this segment, we'll talk about some of the emotional challenges that women face after a cesarean birth, and we'll offer you some suggestions for what you can do to heal. It's important that no matter how you birth, that you can come to terms with it and feel positive about your experience.
When it comes to cesarean birth, I think the area that some women struggle with is a sense of failure. So a lot of the moms that I talk to, and myself included, we're planning for as natural a birth as possible. When you don't get the outcome that you were hoping for, if you're very focused on an outcome and you don't get that outcome, there's a lot of anger involved. And I found that for me there was a lot of anger towards myself, towards my support team, towards the medical model, towards the doctors. And just from my journey of learning and becoming involved in the local birth climate, the anger healed because I realized that you can't just point the finger in one place. There's no one person to blame, and that everybody is trying their hardest, and that there are flaws in the system.
As we know a little bit more about the implications of cesarean section delivery, maybe in those instances after a first cesarean there may be more receptiveness. That would be a good word to use for a vaginal delivery afterwards.
I can promote education regarding cesarean sections, recovery for people who struggle with their cesarean birth, and also a lot of promotion and education around VBAC, which is vaginal birth after cesarean.
I think everybody has somebody that they connect with and that allows them to decompress when they need to and just be a sounding board. And I think that is the key to supporting women is fully empowering them and allowing them to just be heard.
So for the areas where there isn't a local ICAN group, some suggestions that I have would be to go to the website, to find an online support group. Even Facebook has a lot of great resources where you can just post a question and get some answers. One of the best things about ICAN is getting to talk to people who share your story and can relate to your experience. And it's, kind of a magical time in the tech world, and you can find that online. What I would say to a mom just starting out on her healing after a cesarean birth is that she didn't fail. Feeling like a failure kind of bleeds out into a lot of different areas in your life, and having a cesarean birth isn't a failure. You grew a baby and you gave birth to a baby and you became a mother, and those things are real and legitimate and beautiful, and you should be really proud of yourself.
Mothering is much more than that birth, even though that's something of the diamond in your crown as a woman and as a mother. It isn't the only thing. So birth is really important, and I wish for you the best of births, however you define that. And that isn't the only thing that defines you as a mother, or as a woman, or as a human being. And so to remember that both for yourself and for your sisters, I think is really important. And to value what we do that's beautiful, and to value the strength that we bring to what isn't as beautiful.
We own our own bodies. We have to be a leader in our communities. We have to show other women what they're capable of. If there's a woman out there who feels that maternity care is important to her and sees injustices or sees where we can improve upon things, if she's passionate, she can absolutely be a leader. It takes time. You have to trust yourself, and sometimes you move a little bit quicker than you think you're going to, but there are always women who've come before you, and there are going to be women that are going to come after you, and you can learn, and you can absolutely learn from your mentors and realize that it's almost your right and almost your job to do this, because you have a daughter, you have a son, and they need you to be a leader. So do it.
As we've heard today, there are many different choices in how we birth. Many different interventions, many different approaches, and a lot of information that we can look at and explore. What's really important when it comes to how we birth is how we're treated by the people around us and the connection that we establish with our child. It's important to trust yourself and use your voice on the transformation to parenthood. I'm Dr. Lolly DeYoung. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you'll join us for future episodes.